Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to our webinar, Report Interpretation Drives Digital Optimization. Presenting today, my name is Keith McDonald. I'm a consultant with Unilytics, and I'm joined by Karen Rajat, our marketing director, and she'll be fielding questions at the end of our presentation. So a little bit about Unilytics. We are an analytics-only agency founded in 2001. We are experts in digital analytics solutions using the Adobe Digital Marketing Suite, Web Trends, Google Analytics, and dashboard solutions using Tableau and Good Data. We have experience completing hundreds of engagements for clients ranging from government, NGOs, original equipment manufacturers, the pharmaceutical industry, software development, insurance, marketing, media, and professional organizations. The professional services we provide include data analysis and revealing behavior insights, KPI development and analysis. We use our own KPI Carta methodology, analytics governance management, and analytics program implementation and auditing, with particular focus on campaign management, new tool implementation, and end user training, which is our retain program. So why is report and data interpretation important? Well, we've found in our experience that most companies have covered the basics, meaning that they have measurement tags applied to most or all pages of their site. They're reporting the big three measures, so that's page views, visits, and unique visitors. They've got top 10 reporting, for example, top 10 articles, top 10 FAQ replies, top 10 products, that sort of thing. They're aware of their top entry and exit pages, where traffic comes from and where it falls off. And some have identified digital business objectives or have established KPIs. Yet, most are still not seeing ROI from their analytics program, and they haven't made any progress towards being truly data-driven. They've got the basics down, but are unable to mature since they're overwhelmed and unable to develop a game plan. If you're in that boat, the good news is that you're not alone. Many companies are still struggling to derive actionable items from their data. The easiest way to move towards being data-driven and delivering return on your analytics investment is by properly reading reports and interpreting the data that you already have. Most companies we work with are getting reports on marketing and website performance. They're just not sure what to do with them. Over time, as you become comfortable with measurement and business stakeholders become engaged with the numbers, we would expect to see you progress into executing, meaning using the data to make product and marketing decisions based on measured user behavior. Revealing insights into customer behavior to inform these decisions requires interpreting the data, identifying trends, explaining spikes and anomalies, and identifying opportunities for improvement. These opportunities are then developed into a series of small changes to your site or marketing campaigns, which are designed to influence or optimize user behavior. As the business develops analytics maturity, the value delivered from analytics can be increased by automating some optimization decisions. Tools like Google Content Experiments or Adobe Test and Target can deliver customized digital experiences to individual users based on business rules that take advantage of analytics data. And lastly, mature analytics programs are starting to combine data from online properties with data from offline systems, combining measurement of multiple user touchpoints to build a comprehensive view of the business. That said, we still find a lot of companies struggling to achieve insights for the execute portion, so report and data interpretation is what we're focusing on in this webinar. If all you're doing is measuring, you're not really optimizing, and you limit the value that can be realized from analytics. If you understand how to read your data properly, it'll give you an idea of what to do next, and this is what becomes your optimization plan. When looking at your data, you should aim to identify trends over short and long term, and look for opportunities to earn more traffic, and by traffic I mean both increasing page views and increasing audience, and look for opportunities to get more from the traffic you've already earned. So get your visitors returning more frequently and converting more often. And by conversion, I mean any action that the business finds valuable. Also, look for indicators that your users are unable to achieve their goals and listen to what users are asking from your site. So consider the example of a recent site redesign. Looking at the metric average time spent on site in seconds, there was an initial lift post-launch that stabilizes somewhere around pre-launch levels. This post-launch lift is expected as users got used to the new design and figured out the new layout. This stabilization, however, would seem to indicate that the redesign wasn't successful, in that it didn't increase user stickiness at all. All users don't behave the same, however, and site level averages can mask some really valuable insights. Looking at the same metric compared against two segments, new visits and return visits, we see that new visits are spending a lot more time on your site while return visitors are spending less. Again, the redesign doesn't look like it was successful since we seem to have alienated our existing audience. However, when we pull in site level conversion rate, which is the orange line on this graph, we see a good news story. While the trend for average time on site by return visitors is declining, overall site conversion rate is gently increasing. This indicates that the redesign actually made it easier for return visitors to achieve their goals and convert on your site, at the same time as it increased new visitor stickiness and increased overall site conversions. What appeared to be a failed redesign at first look has actually turned out to be a success. And this example really highlights the power and value of dashboarding. While reporting single metrics or even putting them into a dashboard report is a good start, there's still potential for misinterpreting what's actually going on your site. To see the whole picture, you have to compare complementary metrics on the same report or on the same graph and combine those graphs together into a single view dashboard, kind of like what we've done here. Here we see a dashboard which is designed for monitoring our post-redesign success or failure. And in one view, we can see that time spent for new visits has increased and has decreased for return visits, while site conversion rate is trending upward. For new visitors, the conversion rate increase is driving the site level conversion upward trend. And the increase in time spent is driven by significant increases in time spent on two key pages. For us, it's KPI Carta and Retain. So that indicates the redesign was a success. When we're looking at return visitors, the conversion rate remains essentially flat, while average time spent has decreased, indicating the redesign made it more efficient for return visitors to achieve their goals. And in the bottom right corner, the checkpoint analysis fallout report shows that some users are still visiting the home page, the products page, clicking to register to download our white papers, and completing the registration process. Although this report doesn't show an explicit time comparison, we can still benchmark this number against past performance to see that it is in line with our expectations. While the redesign was a success overall, notice that on one of our key pages, products, it didn't benefit from the time spent increase amongst new visitors. This reveals an opportunity to rework that particular page as it's currently just not engaging for users. So our second example asks the question, are users actually achieving their goals? Taking a look at this graph, we see two engagement metrics. Average visit length, reported in minutes and seconds, is the green line plotted against the left vertical axis, and average page views per visit is the blue line plotted on the right vertical axis. At first glance, everything seems to be good. Both page views per visit and average visit length are trending upward, which indicates users are engaging with your content. Notice that we made an assumption there, though, that users are engaging with your content if they're spending more time on your site and viewing more pages. But what if that's not true? What if your users aren't engaging? What happens if they're simply lost? What if the behavior we see here is users spending time clicking through your site, unable to find what they're looking for? Well, to properly interpret that data, you always have to look at data in the proper context. So we can prove or disprove our assumption about user engagement by pulling an additional metric, site searches, which is the red line. So that's average site searches per visit. So this graph highlights that as time and page views have increased, so have site searches. So that changes the pictures entirely. Users are clicking through a few pages, but then seem to be turning to site search to find what they're actually looking for. In order to figure out what's going wrong here, this would be a good application of a voice of customer tool like iPerceptions or Adobe Survey, which would allow you to ask users directly what they're expecting to find and what they need you to do better. If you don't have access to those tools, a content flow report may give you some indication of what users are looking for. So in this example, users are clicking through from the home page to our blog and to our products page, which is great. That's what we want them doing. But looking at their next step from the blog page, we see that the largest group of users is using the internal site search box and is landing on the search results page. So that's probably users who are reading something referenced in our blog post, but then we haven't provided a link to it in our site. So this highlights a potential lost opportunity for better cross-linking of our content in our blog posts and better access to our site navigation from the blog page. The same thing is true with our products page. The largest group of users are either clicking through internal site search to the results page, same as they're doing on the blog, or they're just clicking back to the home page. Here again, we confirm the need to rework our products page to be more responsive to our users' needs. And we can see the same phenomenon taking an e-commerce example. Looking at average purchase amount, we see a declining trend over the last few weeks, and this would normally be a red flag for e-commerce businesses. However, remember, a single metric doesn't tell the whole story. We need to see broader context. Looking at the same report again, pulling in two additional metrics, average days between visits, which is the red line, and average purchases per visitor, the green line, which is plotted against the right vertical axis, this reveals a completely different story. Although average purchase amount has been declining, the average days between visits is also declining at the same time as average purchases per visitor is increasing. So that would indicate that users aren't simply purchasing less each time, they're returning to the site and purchasing more often, which is exactly what we want them to do. And we can confirm this trend by comparing a couple of other metrics. The graph on the right shows average purchase amount, the blue line, and average monthly revenue per visitor, the red line, which are both plotted against the left vertical axis. And they're graphed together with average purchases per visitor, the green line plotted on the right vertical axis. This view reveals that as average purchase amount has decreased over time, average purchases per visitor has increased over the same time, driving a significant increase in average monthly revenue. This indicates that our optimization strategy is actually working, and we don't need to change it at this time. In the same way that you always have to look at data in context, you have to make sure you're looking at the right data. So example 3 is a sample marketing channel report. Looking at the data table, we can see that social networks and direct had the highest response or click-throughs from users, while direct and banner advertising brought in the largest audience or visitors. So it seems that social networks and banner advertising is where we should invest in further marketing. But we don't just want users to come to our site. We want them to do something on our site. We want users consuming our content. So let's look at the same data, pulling in page views per visitor, and bounce rate. So now that we have a broader picture, we can see that although banner advertising brought in the most visitors, it also had the highest bounce rate. So the visitors coming in through banner advertising weren't well qualified. Social networks brought in the most engaged visitors, who viewed on average almost double the number of pages as any of the other channels. But we're still not looking at the right metrics. We don't just want users consuming our content. We want them to register and convert to download our white papers, which would then turn into a sales lead for us. So taking a third look at marketing channels, this time adding in conversions and conversion rate, we can see that social networks really does perform best with a conversion rate of 24.1%. Although this may seem unusually high, we know that users are more likely to interact and convert through a recommendation from a friend. And we can see that users coming in from social network are engaging with our content. But what emerges here is that email and paid search are still worth investing in. Although they don't bring in as many visitors, the visitors they do bring are well qualified and enjoy a conversion rate more than double the conversion rate of banner or affiliate advertising. So this is an oversimplified example, but it demonstrates that there are many different ways to look at your data, especially around marketing. And my point is that you have to make sure you're measuring against the right KPI or business goal. In this case, it's not click-throughs, it's conversion rate. Our last example takes a deeper look at internal site search, which is really a wealth of information about what users want from your site. In this example, I'm looking at searches using a search box and a site header. So something like the one on our homepage. So this graph shows relative volume of search terms, but it shows us only popularity, which isn't the full picture. Adding the search result click-through metric, which are the red bars on the graph, it shows a different picture. This graph shows that for each search term, the user may click on multiple search results. And we expect them to click on multiple search results. So although the term maturity receives the least search volume, indicated by the blue bar, it receives more click-throughs per search, or a higher click-through rate, than the term KPI. This indicates that content returned for search term KPI isn't engaging for users. Fortunately, our users are engaging most with content returned for the term dashboards and Adobe, which is exactly what we want them doing. But since this is search traffic, it indicates a missed opportunity to feature dashboards and Adobe content prominently on our site. Users don't know where to find it because they're turning to search, and consequently, we're seeing that traffic show up in site search report. So we've seen how users are engaging with search results returned to them. However, that doesn't show us if the content on our site is effectively indexed or not. We need to know if our site search results are returning content which is relevant to the user's search term. So we can see that by pulling in the number of search results metric, which are the green bars here on the graph. Looking again at the search term maturity, it receives a really high proportion of click-throughs despite the low number of results returned. So that indicates that the results which are returned are exactly what users are hoping to find. Same story is true with the search term dashboards. Users are clicking through the search results. When we look at KPI, however, again, it's underperforming, returning a high number of search results but yielding a low number of click-throughs on those results. This is probably a lost opportunity. Users are turning to site search since they can't find KPI content in our navigation menus, but the results we're showing them aren't helpful. So we should investigate if all of our KPI content is being indexed by site search, and we have an opportunity here to recommend specific KPI content or to recommend more precise search terms to users searching for KPI. What we really want to know, though, is if site search is working at pulling users back into our site content. If they can't understand our navigation, we hope that site search will put them back on track to achieving their goals and finding what they're looking for. So we can assess this by taking yet another view of site search, the search term view-through metric. A view-through is a count of the number of pages a user views after clicking through a search result. So in this case, the view-through metric will count how many pages the user looks at after they click this dashboard's Tableau software result. So taking another look, the most popular search term also generates the most additional page views, which is exactly what we want. Looking again at maturity, it hits above its weight in that it generates almost as many additional page views as the search term KPI. Remember also that maturity returns fewer search results than KPI. So this confirms our lost opportunity with KPI content and a hidden opportunity to feature our analytics maturity content more prominently on our site. Although it may not be as popular, It seems to be highly successful at drawing users deeper into our content. So the key takeaways for you. First, always ask how you know what you know. What assumptions have you made? Look for additional data points that prove or disprove those assumptions. Remember that all users don't behave the same way, and segmentation can provide a much more accurate interpretation of what's going on. Don't stop by reporting a single metric, but keep digging to get the complete picture, and remember to compare metrics in the same graph or on the same dashboard. Lastly, look at your data in context to understand the relationships between the metrics. Once you've mastered this, the business decisions that you make based on your interpretation of your data will be much more accurate, and you'll be on your way to digital optimization and returning real value from your analytics program. And with that, that concludes our webinar for today. I think we have some questions that have come in.
Okay, so the first question, what is a flow report? Is it a separate tool that can be purchased?
The example that I used in the webinar was from Adobe Site Catalyst. It's their next page flow report. But you can generate similar reporting in Google Analytics. There is a visitor flow report. The data that it returns is slightly different than what you saw here, but the idea behind it is the same. It allows you to see where in your site your users are going and how they're navigating through your content.
Okay, and we have another question about bounce rate. Bounce rate is when a user leaves the site completely, is that right?
Yes, the strict definition of bounce rate is the number of single access visits divided by total visits. So it's the number of times somebody arrived on the page, viewed that page, and then left, divided by the total number of people who viewed that page.
Okay, and another question. Can you explain the view-through metric again?
Yes, view-through counts what happens after a user takes an action. So in this case, we were talking about search term or search result view-through. So when I click on a search result that is returned for my particular search term, I will get a page view. That will count one view-through. From that page, I'll click through to another page, which will count as a second view-through. And I'll click to a third page, which would be a third view-through. So it counts how many pages I viewed and gives credit for those page views back to the search term that started me off on that track in the first place.
Okay, thank you. And then we have another question. Is there a flow report version in WebTrends?
There is, yes. It has to be set up in advance by your WebTrends administrator. And if you have specific questions about that, you can certainly feel free to email them over our way, and we'll provide you with whatever direction we can.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. If you have any additional questions or if you want more information, please don't hesitate to contact us. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.